Hey, chat, we've got some pleas coming, it looks like, in the YSL trial. We're going to get started on that. Sorry, my computer just had a big case of AIDS. Don't know what happened there. We're going to work on that, figure it out. We're going to get started here. Let's get going. Let's get at this because it's already started. We're going to catch up. This is breaking news. Here we go. Here we go, chat. So...
All right, I apologize for the interruption. Thanks for y'all's patience. Some of the co-defendants in the ongoing trial wanted to be out here, so they are out here now. And Mr. Harvey, are we ready with Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
All right.
Do you want him at the podium or do you want him here at seated?
I think at the podium, please. Thank you.
All right, chat, this is Quamarvious Nichols. He's going to be taking a plea.
Now let's have him at the podium because he's going to have to take an active part in.
And chat, if you guys are new, welcome. My name's Sean, also a potential criminal. I am a defense attorney. Home today, so we're covering this. So we got some stuff going down. After what happened last week, there have been plea negotiations. Some of them are pleading. Some of these guys may have lost their RICO designations, but Quamarvious Nichols is pleading out to the RICO offenses. Here we go.
This entry. All right.
Okay, sure.
Sergeant, can you swear him in, please?
Raise your right hand. So I heard testimony you give there.
Yes.
All right. State, spell your first last name for the court. So I want to my police, sir.
Quamarvious Nichols. Quamarvious. Last name Nichols. Nichols.
Did you get that? Okay. Do you want to do it again? All right. Slow down. Your name. Spell it for this young lady right here.
Okay, my name is Quamarvious Nichols. First name Quamarvious. My last name Nichols. Nichols.
And Mr. Nichols, are you the same person referred to as Quamarvious Nichols on indictment 22 SC 183572?
Yes.
And are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
Have you had the opportunity to
This is
sign
pretty
this
standard
indictment-
plea
sign this
information,
indictment
guys.
with your attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey?
Yes.
How old are you?
29.
And how far did you go in school?
I got my GED.
I did not hear you.
I got my GED.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Do you understand that in this indictment, you were initially charged with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years. You were also charged with count 49 in this indictment, which is murder, which carries a sentence of life. You were charged with 2 counts of participation in criminal street gang activity, which was counts 50 and 51, which each carried a sentence of 5 to 20 years. You were initially charged with counts 53 and 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under Code Section 16-11-133, which each carried a sentence of 15 years consecutive to count 1. And then you were also charged with count 54, which is possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which carried a sentence of 5 years consecutive to count 1. Do you understand that that's what you were initially charged with?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to go over and review the waiver of rights form with your attorney?
Yes.
And I'm going to hand this to your attorney. Did you sign this along with your attorney?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charge in this indictment?
Yes.
Do you need any more time to discuss this matter with your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with his counsel and representation?
Yes.
And I'd include in there the counsel and representation by Ms. Westmoreland and Mr. Garland as well. You had a team of attorneys.
That's correct.
All right.
And they are all attorneys of record and have participated.
And guys, if you don't understand, basically his entire counts, all the counts he's been charged with, you heard them list out, including murder, are getting dismissed for him to plead guilty to RICO.
In this particular proceeding and negotiations leading up to this proceeding.
Thank you.
Do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Yes.
Do you waive any and all defects with respect to the indictment?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, have you been arrested on all the charges in this indictment?
Yes.
And Mr. Harvey, the state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you know of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges?
Not related to those charges.
Have you been advised of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading to?
Yes.
Do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that the state will recommend to the court as to count one, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act, a sentence of 20 years to serve 7 years in custody, balanced on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand as a part of the negotiated agreement, the state will null, prosper, dismiss count 49, which is the murder count, count 50, 51, which are the gang activity counts, count 53, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, count 54, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and count 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon? Do you understand that is the negotiated agreement?
Yes.
Do you understand that the court does not have to accept that recommendation?
Yes.
And the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those charges consecutively or one after the other?
Yes.
Well, there's only one charge that
So I-
a guilty plea is
I
being
was
entered into. So
Under my breath to that.
there's no other sentence to run anything consecutively with
Right.
regard to this plea. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today?
Yes.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of your sentence?
Yes.
Do you understand you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are not a United States citizen? A guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would. And that is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else.
Yes.
Do you understand that neither the court, your attorney, nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole, the Department of Corrections, or Board of Partisan Paroles, and no one can guarantee parole no matter what anyone has told you?
Yes.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Do you understand if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights? After each right, I'll ask you to say yes or no if you understand. The right to a trial by jury,
Yes.
the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself,
Yes.
the right to confront witnesses against you,
Yes.
the right to assist with counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at the trial of your case,
Yes.
the right to the presumption of innocence,
Yes.
the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence,
Yes.
the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence,
Yes.
the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt,
Yes.
the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183572, how do you plead to count one, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Yes.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charge against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this plea?
Yes.
And that can challenge anything about the constitutionality of the plea. It's not limited to voluntariness, understand?
Yes.
And Your Honor, if this case were to
Hang on just a second. You also have, so 4 years for that, to file a direct appeal. You have 30 days from the date of sentencing, which is going to be today. And you have until the end of this term of court to file a motion seeking to withdraw your guilty plea. That doesn't mean anything like that would be granted you as well.
Yes.
All right.
Your Honor, if this case were to continue with trial, Your Honor, the state would expect, as to this defendant, the state would expect to show that what has already come into evidence, that on July 3rd, 2017, as well as October 23rd, 2018, that this defendant is an associate of the enterprise of YSL, also known as Young Slime Life, and that he conspired to associate together with others for the common purpose of illegally obtaining money and property through a pattern of racketeering activity, and conducting and participating in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. In furtherance of the conspiracy, this defendant engaged in activities below. He engaged in activities that assisted with preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity to include murder, assault, and threats of violence. That this defendant preserved, protect, and enhance the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by the posting of messages, images, appearance in videos, and songs demonstrating allegiance to the enterprise and a willingness to engage in violence on its behalf, and to obtain money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity, including the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. Your Honor, evidence has come in during this trial that on July 3rd, 2017, Mr. Nichols was located at 2612 Steele Avenue, which is in the Cleveland Avenue sector of the city. Your Honor, he was found inside of a vehicle. When that vehicle was searched, Your Honor, and this was in October 2018, they found marijuana as well as sandwich baggies that would be used to package drugs. And there are also guns found inside of that vehicle. Also in July of 2017, this defendant was stopped during a traffic stop in the Cascade area, Your Honor. After being stopped, Your Honor, there was a consensual search of the vehicle that yielded powder MDMA, Xanax, as well as a loaded gun inside of that vehicle. Additionally, Your Honor, in July of 2019, Mr. Nichols was featured in a video with another YSL member, Shannon Stillwell, and Woody Lee. In that video, it was entitled Slap Talk. And in that video, co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell, while performing, makes such quotes as, "Me and my slimes are above the law." We know from the evidence that slimes is one of the terminology used by members of YSL to refer to themselves or other members of this enterprise. And then last but certainly not least, Your Honor, that in March of 2022, Your Honor, Mr. Nichols was found in surveillance video at a gas station at Windsor Street and Fulton Street here in Atlanta, Georgia. This is on March 14, 2022, during what the state would believe to show an onset of a gang war that really started in 2015 with the death of Donovan Thomas that carried on into 2022. In February of 2022, a rival gang member by the name of Rayshawn Bennett, also known as YFN Lucci, was stabbed at the Fulton County Jail in February of 2022. Information about that stabbing was made public at the early part of March 2022, around March 3rd of 2022. Once that information was released to the public, there was an onset of retaliatory activity that occurred between March 3rd, 2022 and March 16th of 2022. That includes a March 11th homicide of YSL associates Christian McMiller and Darius Ford. It also did include a retaliatory shooting of a YFN associate, and then ultimately it led to a murder of Shamel Drinks, who we believe is a YFN associate. This murder occurred again on March 14, 2022. Mr. Nichols is seen on surveillance video at that BP gas station, as I just referenced earlier. He was at the gas station with YSL co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell. Mr. Stillwell was driving an Audi vehicle. Mr. Nichols came to that gas station in a Ford Fusion vehicle. You see both of them on camera together. While they are at that gas station, Shamel Drinks approaches that gas station as well. I think unbeknownst to Mr. Drinks, Mr. Stillwell was still in his vehicle, which is the Audi. At some point in time, Mr. Nichols got to his vehicle, the Ford Fusion. Once Mr. Drinks finished his business or finished handling business at that gas station, we know that there is a phone call between occupants of the car that Mr. Stillwell was in and occupants of the car that Mr. Nichols was in. That communication was to the effect of, you need to get on FaceTime. As soon as that conversation ensues, we see Mr. Drinks leave the gas station in his vehicle, and both the car that Mr. Stillwell is driving, as well as the car Mr. Nichols is driving, both follow out of the gas station, following behind Mr. Drinks. Mr. Drinks proceeds down the street to the light at Windsor, which is right by I-20 in Windsor. Mr. Drinks is in the far left lane. The car involving with Mr. Stillwell pulls up to the middle lane, and Mr. Nichols' vehicle pulls up to the far right lane. This all captured on surveillance video and surveillance camera. They are at the light for a moment. Then we see both this car with Mr. Stillwell as well as the car with Mr. Nichols drive through a red light, leaving the car with Mr. Drinks sitting at that light. About 30 minutes later, a Good Samaritan sees that car still sitting there, approaches the vehicle, and Mr. Drinks is now deceased inside of that vehicle. We had know through LPR readers that both Mr. Stillwell's vehicle and the car involving Mr. Nichols drive in the direction of 20 westbound and kind of follow in tandem. 2 days later, when after the case is investigated and arrest warrants are taken out, on March 17th, 3 days later, Mr. Nichols is found with Mr. Stillwell at a Chick-fil-A gas station, Chick-fil-A restaurant. There is a chase, we'll call it a high-speed chase, but there is a chase through the city of East Point, and eventually Mr. Nichols as well as Mr. Stillwell are both apprehended after arrest warrants were ultimately taken out for the murder of Mr. Drinks, Your Honor. Given where we are in the case, Your Honor, we know that Mr. Nichols, we do not believe Mr. Nichols was in the vehicle in which the shooting occurred, but he was in this other vehicle. The state has made a decision to move forward with this recommendation for the RICO count, Your Honor, for count one.
Mr. Harvey, are y'all acknowledging a factual basis to the count one, the RICO count?
Okay, we are acknowledging a factual basis. There has already been evidence with regard to the July 3rd, 2017 drug event, the October 23rd, 2018 drug event. We categorically deny and contest any use of violence by Mr. Nichols. We don't agree.
So we
to
don't
that
know, Chad.
underlying factual
Yeah.
basis. We believe those two predicate acts that were committed by
So we don't know if this leads him having to testify or anything else. We're still getting to that. So let's see what happens.
Mr. Nichols, without any question, are sufficient to meet the elements of the offense. The offense to which he's pleaded to, which is a RICO conspiracy. A RICO conspiracy requires proof that the defendant either conspire with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that would be drug offenses, or personally endeavor, I believe that's what the language of the statute says, to violate one of the substantive provisions.
Well, that's what the language of the statute says, but
Yes.
he is indicted in this indictment with conspiring, not with endeavoring.
That's correct. So we're talking about a conspiracy. We acknowledge the two events that he participated in. We categorically deny any other allegations other than those two events that are sufficient for a factual basis. We categorically deny that we participated in any way in the unfortunate death of Mr. Drinks. We categorically deny any other charges to which we are, substantive charges to which we are not entering a plea, and that includes gang charges. This is a plea solely to a conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. So that, but yes, we acknowledge a factual basis to that extent, Your Honor.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Your Honor, you have one additional thing.
Go ahead.
The factual basis regarding the nature of YSL is that the evidence has shown and will continue to show that Mr. Nichols conspired with others to participate in Young Slime Line through a pattern of racketeering activity, and multiple defendants and unindicted co-conspirators have committed overt acts to further this conspiracy, including drug sales, aggravated assault, and murder, also including social media posts asserting the violent nature of and asserted dominance of Young Slime Life, also known as YSL. And that concludes our factual basis.
And again, once again, we categorically deny those representations. And again, the only thing that is necessary to meet the factual evidence of a 1614-4C is proof that the defendant conspire with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that is subsumed by the drug offenses that have already been proven in this case, and to which Mr. Nichols has previously pled.
All right, thank you.
Ah.
Understood.
May I approach with the waiver of rights for the-
Yes.
So it's interesting, chat. There is no demand he cooperate or provide testimony. That hasn't come up yet. I wonder if other guys are pleading out today. But they're pleading out straight to RICO. They dropped the murder, they dropped everything. So RICO, remember, we talked about this before. The Racketeering, Influence, Corrupt Organizations Act in Georgia is very, very vague. 2 people working together is RICO. So basically, think of RICO as a conspiracy charge. So he agreed to conspiracy to be in a gang. He hasn't agreed that the gang did I didn't help do any of the stuff, but I just agreed to be in part of a gang. Is basically what he just pled out to. Yeah, we don't know if everybody's going to plea.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Harvey, have you?
This is a phenomenal job. Dropping all that, getting murder charges tossed, and maybe only doing 5 to 7 years. That's a pretty good deal.
Reviewed with Mr. Nichols this plea of guilty and waiver of rights form, which the 2 of you have.
This is the first
both
plea,
signed.
chat.
I have, Judge, in each individual provision in that plea colloquy has been acknowledged and gone over personally with Mr. Nichols.
All right. And Mr. Nichols, have you had sufficient time to consider this guilty plea that has been negotiated between the state and your attorneys, and to discuss anything you wanted to about that with your attorneys?
Yes.
All right. And you understand, I hope, I'm going to ask you, that it is your decision ultimately, obviously with the advice of your attorneys, but it's ultimately up to you individually to decide whether you want to enter this guilty plea or not. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. And you do want to enter this guilty plea?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Harvey, have you advised Mr. Nichols of the alternatives if he does not ultimately go through with this guilty plea, and the potential benefits and drawbacks of all of the other options?
Yes,
All right.
very thoroughly, Judge.
All right. All right, Mr. Harvey, is there anything that the defense wants to add to the record?
Judge, other than the statement with regard to the underlying factual basis, I would point out for the court that when Mr. Nichols filled out his form, it says 29 plus. He is a birthday boy in a couple of days, and he will be 30. And at 30 years of age, he has a wife. He has got a 13-year-old daughter. He's got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. His wife and sister, I believe, are here in the courtroom to support him. He, Mr. Nichols, was born and raised in Atlanta. And, we're at this point before I have even given my opening statement in this case.
Yes, sir.
I do want the court to know that Mr. Nichols' mother died in prison. His father was shot by the Atlanta police when he was 4 years old. And he was raised by friends and family in the Atlanta area. So he has come to this point in his life from a very humble beginning. And he has sought the support of friends in this courtroom and others in this courtroom. He is an intelligent young man who I believe has a future. Every day we do a word of the day. We put a new word into a sentence. And I think this is in his best interest. I know that there is, and I know this plea is negotiated, but it's a long downside from 7 to 20. So the courts will have jurisdiction over him for a period of time. So I asked the court, given who this young man is, and given our categorical denial of some of the factual basis, to accept the plea and sentence Mr. Nichols accordingly.
Mr. Nichols, is there anything that you want to say?
No, ma'am.
All right. All right, I find there to be a factual basis for the guilty plea to the RICO count one of the indictment, that being a conspiracy to acquire control or interest in money and personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And that is the only count that guilty plea is being entered for. The remaining counts of this indictment as against Mr. Nichols are being null pros by the state as a part of this indictment. I find, having heard the evidence up to the point of trial right now,
We're going right into it.
is evidence of at least one overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
We're getting to sentencing right now, Kurt, with the RICO
and
stuff.
that there is evidence
Send
that
you a link,
would
man.
fall within the required statute of limitations to establish this RICO conspiracy count. One of the things that we as judges are instructed by our Uniform Superior Court rules to do when we are considering whether to accept a guilty plea and whether to accept a negotiated sentence, and this is a negotiated sentence in this case, is to take into account whether giving leniency in sentencing is going to aid in ensuring promptness and certainty, or at least more promptness and more certainty with regard to corrective measures, whether the defendant, and in this case, the defendant has acknowledged guilt and is accepting responsibility for his guilt of the RICO count, and whether accepting the plea will aid in avoiding further delays, not just with regard to this case, but with regard to the entirety of our system here in Fulton County. And this plea does go towards doing all of those things. I am going to accept the plea as negotiated and sentence in accord with the negotiated recommendation. As I said before, find there to be a factual basis for count one of the plea. I find the plea to have been freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered into by Mr. Nichols with an understanding of the consequences of doing that. And the sentence on count one is the sentence that has been negotiated of 20 years to serve 7, with the balance of those years to be served on probation. And that, I don't know if there are any special conditions attached to this that y'all have talked about at all.
There are no negotiated special conditions in those there. So there are none as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Okay. So with regard to the time that you are on probation, you need to stay out of all kinds of criminal trouble. Make this a birthday present.
Sounds like he's getting
yourself
probation,
and
chat.
to your children and to your wife and family, that you will leave from here today and leave whatever you used to do behind you.
Ooh.
And take the next few
And
years.
probation.
You're going to have some years that are still to be served on this. You'll have credit for the time you've already served, but you're still going to be facing some incarceration time. But after that, you are going to be out, and you, I believe, Mr. Harvey is correct, can be a productive member of society. And this is an opportunity for you to do that and for you to put your past behind you, the bad parts of it, and continue and make your children proud of you and set a good example for them, an example that I guess unfortunately you were not lucky enough to have throughout the entirety of your childhood with your parents. I'm sorry about that, but you can be the kind of parent that you ought to be to your children. So I am going to impose that sentence, and I am going to wish you luck and good fortune as you go forth from here. So I think that unless there's anything else from either party, that will conclude these proceedings, and y'all can go ahead and take him into custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
And Ms. Taylor will make this an exhibit to the plea. Thank you. All right, we are adjourned for the day.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
minus 2.5, you got 5 years to go. Okay. Wow. Well, that was interesting. That's it. I kind of get the feeling there's more pleas coming. Although if that's what they offered to him, 7 years, I kind of wonder what Young Thug's going to look at. Yeah, I thought he was getting today too, but that's my fault, chat. So Quamarvious Nichols, he got 7 years. The judge sentenced him to 7, so he's going to do a couple more. So, is he snitching? I don't think there's any indication he snitches. I don't think there's any snitching at all. There's no indication that was part of the agreement because that would have been read out in the agreement. So that's very interesting what's going to happen there. So, do they have a law class that teaches you how to pronounce these names, Sean? No, you learn from experience. Yeah, there was nothing in that. If there was any agreement for him, as I said, guys, if he's going to have to cooperate, that's read into the record. Remember the whole thing with Monk Tunk? That whole issue about what you've done, what you're agreeing to do, what you're saying, because if they were going to do that, they would make him agree to statements on the record. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did they do this? Did they do that? Blah, 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 blah. They didn't do any of that. There is no indication that this deal is tied to his agreement to cooperate. They just cut a deal. So, yeah. There are no agreements that he testify. So he's not going to have to. Yeah, she lost her leverage. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, the prosecutors, the reason why they had him plead to the RICO is because now they can say, we got a RICO conviction. He was the bad man. He agreed to it. So, Kurt saying a plea without requiring to cooperate is unusual. Yeah, well, there was no agreement read onto the record, so yeah. So we'll see. I mean, ultimately, Fanny didn't win here. Yeah, but she can call it a win. Remember, prosecutors, if you end up pleading, they can go, look, he pled. You're guilty of something. I mean, that happens. You know, they get it's like a Reddit argument, like, well, you pled out, you're guilty of something. See, you're not innocent. You're a guilty man. We did the right thing. That's what they'll be able to say. If Fannie Wilson say, look, these men pled guilty. Therefore, I was right to charge them. So, ultimately, yes, she can hang this as a win. And all people are going to hear in the news, remember, most of the normies out there are going to say, oh, look, a guy in the rap gang pled guilty. That's all they're going to hear. That's all they're going to hear. Hilton screwed up big time. Yes, they did. Yep. Yeah, she did. But Luke, you're reading too much into this, buddy. She's never going to declare a mistrial. After all this, and she still won't declare one, she's never going to declare one. It's just like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Binger and those attorneys know how to push. They know how to get their way. And sure, the judge she's going to say, oh, you steamed my clams. But then she never does anything about it. There's never been any punishments. There's never been any sanctions. Nothing except, you need to get your shit in order. That's all you hear. There's never any punishment. You know, she looked at that ex parte hearing and goes, well, that was okay. No, these judges are never going to hold them accountable. They are never going to be held accountable. I know you want to say that, but they're still in a position of power. They're still in a position of power. And Jim Cox, yeah, a conviction is a conviction is a conviction. And Tyler, Libertarian Podcast View, how you doing, man? Saying, how long does trial last? Well, it's still going. There are 6 co-defendants. There are 6 co-defendants out there right now. So it's not just the one of them. There's actually multiple co-defendants. So obviously, this guy who was Quamarvious Nichols, Quamarvious Nichols. There's a bunch of other ones though. We have Young Thug himself. Jeffrey Williams. There's Yak Gotti, also known as DeMonte Kendrick. Rodalius Ryan, also known as Lil Rod. And then you have Qua. There's Quamarvious Huey, and then Shannon Stillwell. So there's 6 of them total, and one of them pled. So it's just 5 left. So we'll see. The trial's still ongoing technically for the rest of them, but this is a trial that started, I think, January 3rd. And remember, jury selection for this case, guys, took 11 months prior. So this case is almost 2 years old, and we're still chugging along here. Yes, Maddie, she did have to drop like 100 years of crimes of murder, weapons, and charges. Yep. But there's a reason why they asked for the RICO, because that's the good one. That's the sexy one. Well, it's still RICO. Because now they can say it's all a criminal gang. He's acknowledged the existence of the criminal gang. Now, maybe they call him and just have him acknowledge, you did acknowledge this was a gang, right? Yep. And they might use that. Who knows? But there's nothing tying him to it. So, yes, ultimately his attorney did a very good job. She did a very good job at, his attorney did a very good job protecting him, protecting his client. And yeah, he made sure, like, we are stipulating to X, Y, and Z. We are not stipulating to the rest of this. We disagree with the factual basis of the other parts of this, judge, but for what we're agreeing to, you could still find him guilty. So, once you plead, can you not appeal anymore? You can always appeal, but you're only able to appeal things like, was your plea hearing done properly? Was your conviction within the bounds of the law? So let's say he pled to RICO and the max sentence was 5 years, but the judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. You could appeal that. You could say the judge didn't follow the law. And correct. Or let's say during the hearing, the judge said a bunch of, she started dropping N-bombs. You could appeal. Or if during the plea, they didn't properly do your plea and they didn't follow the law or follow, procedure. You could challenge that. But you're only challenging what happens in your plea and your sentencing. So not really much you can challenge. Because at that point, all you're doing is getting resentenced. But sometimes that's helpful. Let's see here. Yeah, we're at day 155. Well, yeah, 152. Day 152. And yes, and there are 6 of them. There are a bunch of them still awaiting trial. There's a couple of them who've already gone to trial and been dealt with, and a bunch of them pled out. Yes, it's Quamarvious. Yeah, I butcher his name all the time. So, yeah, we got a couple of them. There's 28 total defendants. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. So, yes, RICO is a catch-all charge. The court uses to shortcut actual cases. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah, one officer was kicked off the stand. Yep. And that's what caused all of this to happen. So there might be more plea negotiations. We don't know. Things have been ongoing one by one. These attorneys have been meeting with the prosecution. So Likely there are massive plea negotiations ongoing. We'll be covering the April omnibus. I don't think it was ever I don't think it's recorded. I don't think it's recorded or available for us to get to. Are you saying was his attorney crying? He sounded like it. I'm sure. These guys have had a massive, one thing all these attorneys, if you guys watch them, and more importantly, if you listen to them, you listen to Doug Weinstein, who's been on with Cat Williams and also Nick Starro, but you listen to Max Shart, Brian Steele, Keith Adams, Mr. Harvey, Caleb Bumpus, all these attorneys, they've known their clients for 2 years. They've got to know them real well. Some of these guys may have had prior history with their clients. Yeah, I'm sure it's a bittersweet thing. He feels sorry that, this is probably like, I feel bad. That's the best I can do for you, man. And I get that. I get that whole issue here. Like, I wish we could do more, but this is the best we got. That's just the nature of things, guys. So that's kind of where we are. So that's kind of where we. It's kind of where we are. It's kind of where we are. And I've been that way before. When you're very involved in working with the client, it's like, well, what do we do? What do we do? So every day they've been doing this. You got to quote one of Andrea's appeals. The white prosecutor said, "You won't get a jury of your peers, but of my peers." That doesn't surprise me saying that. So, yeah. And they're exhausted. They are grinding these guys down. Luke says, "I think only Ryan got appointed counsel." Yeah, but even then, and I feel bad for that guy because that attorney is basically losing their practice over this. Ghostball says, "What gun is that behind me?" That is a Glock 17, 3D printed. So yeah, guys, that is it. It doesn't sound like we're having any more pleas today. It sounds like there's more ongoing pleas being done. And yeah, sounds like that's it for now. Chugi shows shame they can't immediately appeal a decision to not give a mistrial. I think Avenatti was able to pull the same thing. Pull a similar stunt one of his trials. Well, there's all kinds of issues. This case has been just a dumpster fire. It's been in a bastardization of justice. But hey, maybe we'll see something that happens. Greg Brenio says Jeffrey Williams isn't taking a plea deal guaranteed. Everybody says that, but it's hard being in jail. It's hard, man. 2 years. Can't see your family. Yeah. So it's rough. It's rough all around. Are we able to go to the remote hearing for April, guys? I know you guys are talking about it. We might cover it. So we can try. I don't know if it's going to be available for us, but we'll try it. The fool should have gone the Racketeering route and denied any plea. I don't buy that. Ghostball says a Glock better in 1911. Now you're just trolling. I bet Steele wouldn't let him accept any offer other than time served. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that that's the case, and I don't blame them for that. The bigger thing is, too, Doug would have to have the right to, he's going to want to go back out and sing and perform, and they're going to stop him from doing that because he's going to write about all this, and has been writing about all this. If we can get April set up, guys, we will try that because it starts at 3:15. Lil Pill says Ryan's lawyer is a PD. She's being paid $5K a month. I believe she stayed in court a while back. She had to start an OnlyFans before they agreed to pay her the $5K. I'm glad they're paying her that, but that's $60K, man. That's $60K. I mean, and it's basically fucked her practice over. I can only imagine if I was in that situation. Got roped into a case like that, and now, like, I wouldn't be able to take any more clients. Every other case I'd have to get rid of. Sorry, can't do any work right now. I'm stuck on one case. Because she's not like these other, Brian Steele has multiple attorneys and other people in his firm. Doug Weinstein does. All these guys do other things that can be done, but she doesn't. That's truly a shame for her. It's truly a shame. Doug has said on Twitter his client isn't taking a deal. I understand, but they haven't come up with a good one. I'm sure if they come up with a misdemeanor, I bet he takes it. There's zero way Doug is going to take a plea. I'd like to think so, but you never know. You never know. You never know. How are they going to link Doug to the drug sales? I don't know at this point. I mean, they're kind of. Oh, Roland. So are you being serious, Ghost Balls? I mean, yes, it's better. It's like 100 years newer in technology. So yes, there's a lot of advantages to it. 1911s are nice. They look cool, but yeah, Glock is the cutting edge of technology. Even 40 years later, it's still good. So yeah, we'll see, guys. So yeah, there'll be more to the Young Thug saga, but the YSL gang, the YSL trial, which I don't think they're a gang, but we'll see. Greg is saying, how will this trial go on now that somebody pled? It continues on. I've had cases before where we've pled out partway through a trial or in a proceeding. We pled out and left, and yeah, it happens. It does happen. They just chug along without you. There's just less chairs at the defendant's table. The jury knows what happened, though. They know what happened. Even though they're told not to infer anything about it. So there we go. So guys, that is it for right now. Yeah, this happened last minute. I was trying to get this done in a hurry. If you guys are new, my name's Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I'm an defense attorney in the Cleveland area. And if you guys like to, we do stuff every night, usually in the afternoon, in the evenings. Every Thursday night, we have a live show at 9:30 Eastern time. You can see down there. Yeah, we cover all kinds of topics. Also, we're 1 week out from the election, so let's go and get serious. Go and get serious now. We're going to start covering that a little bit and going forward. Birdman says, yes, felony convictions don't allow artists to travel in a lot of places. That's true. It all depends on your country. Some countries will let you in, some countries won't. But it restricts your ability to travel and also restricts your ability to have passports sometimes, depending on what you've done. So Clyde is the leader of this criminal gang. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Chat. Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, with that being said, guys, we have we have two comments here. Duncan Idaho says, who's more corrupt and criminal? Young Thug et al. Or the people prosecuting him? It's like watching gang warfare where one gang's home turf is the courtroom. I mean, the government is a gang. The police are a gang. Gang. They're all gangs. It really is gangs fighting each other. It's organized criminal entities battling each other. One just has a massive monopoly on violence. The public has given it. And then Skyway. Thank you very much, Skyway, for the super chat. It says, do prosecutors ever have consequences? No. Sorry. I mean, like, short of wow, is my color looks like it's down like it's a leisure suit. Jeez. It's a problem with this shirt. It looks like everything's flat. Mike Nifong in the Duke Lacrosse case, he got hammered. There's a prosecutor out in Colorado who just got nuked. But generally, no, there really isn't anything that happens to prosecutors. Naughty. No. That's basically the most they face. Wish I could tell you there's more than that. But No, that's really it. That's really it. Did I like that he there's no special conditions? Yes. That's very important. I 100%. That's awesome. That's awesome. It protects it protects Mr. Nichols, but also protects Thug and the rest of them. Now that's an indication they don't have anything that they can do there. Heyman King says Young Thug entered a motion that all videos are fake because they don't have a watermark. I mean, he could. I don't know. Judge Whitaker might be dumb enough to go for it. So, Parallax says, do I have the link? I have the links for April. I'm going to try to set those up in a second. If I can set them up, we will try to cover her hearing. That should be interesting. We'll see what happens. We'll still think it'll be funny if she's showing up from Nick's house. Okay. Elfin Clinad says you should join Nolan Kino on election night. Well, I don't know what are they all doing on election night? I mean, I might make a round or two, but I'm going to probably do some stuff ourselves. And Sitch and Adam have already asked if I'd stop by on election night, so I might stop by early. But I think we'll be doing our own election night thing. We'll see, though. We'll see. Let's see here. Definitely cover the hearing, yes. Yes, and Kitchen Knife Rescue, I saw you in here. Want to say hello. The next trial is Courtney Clenny. I'm not sure. We got a couple different trials. There are some young Thug guys who had some trials earlier that were very short and about their involvement that we might cover too. Judge McBurney has his own YouTube channel where he covers stuff. He's a judge down there. There's actually a couple cases. There's actually a police shooting up in Connecticut done by the judge in the Michelle Trakunis trial that I want to cover. I think it should be very good. Like I said, that judge is very good. But also, this one's a police shooting where you're kind of like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know still to this day. From based on what I know. But I haven't watched the whole trial yet. So we got a couple things in our pocket to run. Colossal Bag says, do your end show. This exact what? Hold on. She's on the phone, but oh my God, don't troll me like that, babe. Parallax, yeah, it's at 3:30 Eastern. Remember, it is I got the link and it's in an hour from now. So we're gonna get started on that. Oh. So anyways, chat, that is it for now. And YNW Melly has a trial date now. That'll be a good one. Ghostball says, you covered the OJ trial on one of the classics. It was 9 months long. I mean, we can cover bits and pieces of it, but I know Jeff from Legal Vices has already covered OJ front to back, but we can work on parts of it, Ghostballs. It's just a 9-month trial. So in the meantime, guys, yes, remember, we will be doing April in a little bit. I'll get that set up. And yes, her attorney filed a motion to dismiss yesterday that actually is very interesting, and we're going to see it. We'll take a look at it. The Kit Martin trial. KLF, send me a link. Send me some information. I'll take a look at it. But guys, remember, until next time, thank you all for being here. Remember, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Except if you're Quamarvious Nichols and you end up pleading guilty, then you are guilty. But Young Thug, Yak Gotti, Shannon Stillwell, and the rest of the boys, they're still not guilty. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you shortly as I set up the April stream. Bye, everyone. Where did this? Oh, come on. Go to my thing.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy